create an environment where we can create a middle-class Malawian group. And then we have the fifth pillar, which is economic infrastructure, where we have good ICT, transport, energy that will facilitate all these things. And I think I should mention that you also see, just as the pillars are interlinked, the enablers are also interlinked in a way. And then we have human capital development, education, health, including family planning, because the quality of the family size and what you have there will also affect the quality of the social services that you can provide for that. Included in there is science, technology, and innovation, to make sure that in the modern economy, you can't do things like in the 1980s. We have to take advantage of what's happening here and move forward. Lastly, is environmental sustainability. So you can see that Malawians are really saying, look, we are looking at inclusive wealth creation, but there are certain things that need to happen right. So we, as a commission, are busy with the support of the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, as well as the various key partners that we're working with, to tease off the specific strategies, because to say mindset change is one thing, but how to get it done is another. That's where now we're working on in terms of the specifics of how do we get those enablers and pillars operationalized.
When should we expect realization of all this that has been discussed?
Wow, that's a $1 million question. In terms of getting to realize, this is a journey. As we're saying, this is a National Transformation 2063. So you cannot, achieve all these things within a short period of time. But our idea is, for example, if you're talking about wealth creation, most of it really is about when do we attain, for instance, the middle income status that is as inclusive to reduce on inequality levels as well. That we want to make sure that we attain at the shortest time possible without having to hit so far, maybe in the next 10, 15 years or so. I think before we go there, we should be able to have reached that. Over the course of the period, Kumbu, I think as we go, as somebody asked, said some other time to say, how do you define luxury? So I say luxury is difficult to define, but you know it when you see it. You'll be able to tell that I think Malawi is now getting there. So it's a journey, it's a process, but with all of us mindset changing and working hard, I'm sure that we should be getting there before even 2063 for Macharia.
You're watching MBC Exclusive. Our guest this week is Dr. Thomas Munthali, Director General of the National Planning Commission. We'll be back shortly after this break. Welcome back to MBC Exclusive. Our guest this week is Dr. Thomas Munthali, who is the Director General of the National Planning Commission. Now, Dr. Munthali, it's not like we're trying to bring skeletons from the closet, but then let's talk a bit about Vision 2020. Right. It was a beautiful document that ended up working for Rwanda, I understand, but didn't work for Malawi. What went wrong, and then how will you ensure that this document is going to work?
All right. You see, to begin with, I want not to fully agree with people that Vision 2020 didn't completely work. I think, let's be fair, that there were certain things that worked with Vision 2020. Out of which you're seeing the healthy elements, mortality rates went down, maternal health improved, you're looking at life expectancy went up, school enrollment rates, and quite some infrastructure that you're seeing today out of that. But I think the key issue is that poverty remains persistent. And because we had targeted ourselves to be a middle-income economy by 2020, that we fell short of. And the lessons we obtained, we did a review, independently done externally, so that we really had to understand what worked, what did not work, and why. And one of the key aspects which we are going to utilize as lessons for the new vision is that Vision 2020 lacked targets. So there were broad statements, very beautiful, actually some of them were used in the new vision, but there was no linking to say, how will we know, for example, that we have vibrant social services, that we're getting there into a middle economy country. So this time around is that 5, 10, 15, 20 years so on, we'll be putting targets to say, are we getting there or not on the parameters that we define. Linked to that was the challenge of accountability. It seemed like we had a vision done, put it on the shelf, nobody was in charge of, so who keeps track of where we are? Now that we have a National Planning Commission as an institution to oversee implementation of the vision and the subsequent medium-term development plans to operationalize that, that will bring a lot more of a difference, because it means we will have to be holding each other accountable, following, tracking, and so on. And last and possibly more important, we were not, looking at the resource that is going to operationalize that. This time around, we are saying whenever we are talking about something that we need to implement, from the word go, we should have an indication of where we're getting the resources to implement it with. A road cannot just start without you knowing where the monies will come from. Otherwise, you end up doing 2 kilometers this year, then you stop. We don't have money, then maybe start another 2 or 3 years later and so on. That just retards development because resources end up getting spread so thinly. So basically those are some of the elements, but we have a full report, Kumbu, that we can share with you about the lessons that came out. So if you're looking at the case of Rwanda, as you mentioned, these guys, all they did was implemented, hold each other accountable. For us, we had that vision. We didn't implement it as we had thought, because the medium-term development frameworks that each political party was bringing, we are talking different stories to what the vision was supposed to be talking about. So when we have this vision launched, actually what will happen now is that we will review MGDS 3 to align to the new vision. So the priorities in MGDS 3 will now be priorities defined by the pillars and the enablers that are in the new vision. So that whoever comes is saying under pillar 1, 2, 3, as a political party, this is what we're promising the people of Malawi. This is what we'll do. Or enabler A, B, C, D, this is what we'll do under enabler economic infrastructure, or enabler mindset, and this and this. So the people choose to say, I think these are the guys that are defining the best how of meeting our pillars and enablers at the shortest time possible, so that we don't have another one coming up with different priorities from what the people want. Yeah.
Now, why have you coined the phrase wealth creation? Why?
Good question, Kumbo. You know, if you look at our scenario at the moment, it's pathetic because we're relying too much on donors and debt. You cannot talk about economic independence if you do not have the means to fund your own development agenda. And therefore, it's important for you to create the wealth both at the household and the national level for you to be able to finance your own livelihoods. As it is at the moment, the poverty reduction strategies are more of survival mechanisms. You know, donors will give you money to buy some bag of fertilizer, so that next year they give you another coupon and stuff like that. So people are just basically surviving to have food and stuff like that. Their lives, if you go to people in the rural areas, the way you saw them 10 years ago, the same house, the same way of life, the same borehole, survival. So we're saying, look, I think we need to transform our mindset and also begin to think, creating wealth that will completely transform people's lives. People should be changing. We should be seeing next time we go there, they've got an iron sheet house, they've got a motorbike, they've got a car, they've got a maize meal, they've got this, so that their lives are changing and growing. So basically for us to do that, we cannot do it if we do not have wealth. As I mentioned earlier when we were talking about resourcing, we can plan no matter how much we want to plan, but if we don't have resources with which to implement, you just sing this song. And the donors, that's their money. They can decide to say, we'll fund this and not that. So as a country, you may not move forward. Just to give you an illustration, Kumbo, is that like this year, the national budget that the minister presented, 91% of our local revenue, domestic revenues will only fund statutory obligations. So all the money that we're collecting, 91%, will go to interest payments, pensions, salaries, and arrears. So you're only remaining with 9% that has to fund the rest of the recurrent budget, meaning medicines, books in schools, everything else, not to mention development budget. You can't construct a road with that balance. So what do? You have to go into debt. You have to borrow. We have 4.1 trillion kwacha of debt now, and it's still growing. Are we as a country really going to sustain that? No. Are we going to be relying on donors, on goodwill? No. So we've got to create wealth. Let's look at areas where we can get money, grow our economy, and fund our own development agenda.
Now, what is the picture or the vision that you have for the future, for 2063? Where do you want, or where do you see, with this vision that we're working on as a country, where do you see Malawi in 2063? I want to hear your thoughts. In terms of what? In terms of how you see Malawi by then, with that document that is being, with the policies that are going to be incorporated in the Vision 2063. So more or less, you're talking about the aspirations that Malawians have? Yes. Because in essence, is you just translate the pillars and enablers. So for example, you want to have an agriculture sector that is pretty much commercialized. So even if somebody is farming 1 hectare, it's a 1 hectare that is so productive. You don't have to have so many hectares to produce lots. With current science, technology, and innovation, you can intensify production within a small space, with this greenhouse farming and stuff like that. That is really going to transform that type of farming. You're looking at industrialization. You're looking at a country that is heavily industrialized, where jobs, decent jobs, are readily available. You, Kumbo, should want to move jobs from MBC and become somebody, anytime you want, so that even your bosses, coming and begging to say, can you please stay? Because the opportunities are so much. The same with urban centers, where the health systems are so solid. You go to the type of hospitals that you see in towns, the type of school systems. You don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, if my child is going to move to primary school, I don't know what will happen. I would rather send them to private school. Private schools, private and public schools are more the same. And so you're looking also at the economic infrastructure, world class, where you talk of roads that are really top notch. You're looking at ICT, you can call anybody anytime, internet services is not an issue. You're looking at energy, power, it's not about blackouts and I'm worried. That kind of environment. So if you just look at the pillars and enablers, they'll tell you the aspirations that Malawians have along those lines. And finally, do you think it can be realized? Very much possible. Actually, Kumbo, I think it's going to be possible for 2063. Are we going to hold you accountable? Everybody. Let's hold each other accountable. Let's not hold, just look at the commission, because the commission really is there to coordinate, to oversee that these things are happening. We have those people that are going to be implementing there. What will be key is for us to work as a unit. From the top leadership or down, all of us should become leaders without titles. So we all should hold each other accountable and say, look, I think we need a different Malawi. And once we devise in the new vision and indeed in the medium-term frameworks that these are the people that, these are the institutions that are going to drive this, let's make sure that we hold them accountable. No tolerance for mediocrity. If the Director General of the National Planning Commission is not delivering, don't say, well, look, where does it come from? Which party is he aligned to? Or blah, 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 something like that. He has not delivered. Sorry, we